He's been there since you were a child. Watching. Waiting. Counting. Get ready for a unique episode of Monster Menagerie! Welcome to Monster Menagerie, brought to you by the Paladin Archives. My name is Mason Kren. Kren's the name, Mason's the title. If you're new here, my job is to analyze threats for the Paladin Order and report back to them with vital information they need to stay alive and help others when faced with the throngs of creatures that go bump in the night. So of course, in my off time, I turn that analytic ability toward the world of pop culture. This year, we're analyzing vampires. We've done Dracula, we've done Edward Cullen, we've done Lady Dimitrescu,
Morbius,
Marceline the Vampire Queen, Louis de Pont du Lac, Nandor the Relentless, and we can't forget Celine. How many vampires is that?
That's 8! 8!
And with today's vampire, we hit the magic number 9. Yes, friends, today we revisit your childhood and explore things the Children's Television Workshop didn't want you to know. We're looking at the one, the only, Count Von Count. Now, the reason I said this would be a unique episode is that, unlike the others, we have to break my one big rule. For everyone, Dracula all the way to Celine, we only looked at the movie or show or game or whatever they were from. No sequels, no alternate versions, no supplemental material. But for the Count, well, his first appearance was in 1972. As of the airing of this episode, that's 51 years of the Count and still going strong. So I had to turn to some supplemental material, namely the Muppet Wiki, which led me to a lot of good sources about him. Hey, you see all those books behind me? Well, sometimes I luck out and the creature we need is well documented. Before we get too deep, I just want to give a quick shout out for our new Discord server. You can find a link down in the description. We talk about the new novel coming out, The Paladin, which all this is based around. We chat about monsters and fun stuff, and of course, there's a big focus on our Twitch stream. We'd love to have you come by. Well, I think that's enough shilling for our stuff. Don't worry, we'll hit you again later. For now, it's time to take a look at this crazy counting vampire. That's one crazy counting vampire. First things first, let's address the Muppet in the room. Is the Count even a vampire? I mean, it seems obvious, right? Just look at him. But the Children's Television Workshop really went out of their way to make sure they never actually called him a vampire on television. A few books here and there mentioned it, but there was nothing concrete. Until Wired got to the bottom of it.
Is the Count from Sesame Street a vampire? Yes, but I am a vampire with an unquenchable thirst for numbers.
There. Straight from the purple horse's mouth. It doesn't get more direct than that. With that out of the way, let's delve into the admittedly thin, but somehow deeper than I imagined, lore of Count Von Count. According to his dialogue in the song The Batty Bat, he grew up in Transylvania, in the Carpathian Mountains. Their castle was cold, but apparently counting somehow kept them warm. Maybe it was all the dancing? It's insinuated he was born a vampire and grew up, which is rare but not unheard of in my line of work. We learned this from him reminiscing about his first day at school. Either way, he showed up on Sesame Street and began harassing the locals, not by hunting them as prey, but by counting everything in sight. And, of course, when he reaches the end of his counting... Beyond that, we don't know a lot about his past. We know once he relocated to Sesame Street, he had a string of lovers. No, I'm not kidding. His most famous was the Countess Natasha von Numeral, or just simply the Countess. But he also romanced Lady Two, Susan Sarandon, and Countess von Backwards. I'm pretty sure Countess Darling von Darling is his cousin, though. Yeah, it's not much, but deeper than you thought, huh? Arithmomania. The compulsive need to count things. It's a classic trope among vampires, and boy, does this man have it.
Do you know why they call me the Count? Because I love to count things.
Overall, the Count is pretty benign, but that doesn't mean he's without any negative traits. He tends to interrupt others when there's the promise of counting things, and there's always something to count. People, dolls, apples, hot dogs, even Maria's toes. He's insistent that he get to count things, even if the people involved don't want to engage. But most of all, his arithmomania is so strong, he thinks nothing of stunning or hypnotizing others to get what he wants.
Ernie's blocks, and he told me.
He's a romantic at heart, but even this can take a back seat to his counting. Once, while attempting to get his paramour, the Countess, to agree to marry him, he actually refused her acceptance because he was enjoying counting her refusals.
Wait, don't give up so soon. I'm beginning to enjoy this.
I think my favorite thing about him, he's more cunning and tricksy than you'd think. Without provocation, he decided to trick half the main cast into staring up into the sky like doofuses, purely for his own amusement.
Five people standing with their noses pointed straight up and looking very silly. 5!
Now, assuming there was a reason for the Paladins to be after him, which would be weird, but hey, we're here already, how would he react to the Paladins? Well, he's not really violent. He might hypnotize them and tell them to leave, but only if they were in the way of his counting. More likely, he'd probably want to count how many Paladins we sent after him. The Count has more abilities than I would have thought. Some are fairly benign, but others are potentially dangerous if wielded recklessly. Let's start with the first one. Conjuration of thunder and lightning, occasionally with rain. Whenever the Count finishes his counting, he always ends with his signature, ah, ah, ah. That is always accompanied by flashing lightning and crashing thunder. I don't think I have to explain how dangerous an ability like that could be, should the Count choose to direct it malevolently. But on top of that, as we see in this scene with Maria, he can conjure rain indoors through the phone.
And start the game.
Probably his most useful power, for ill or for good, is his hypnotism. I wasn't sure that it wasn't just some kind of stun the first time he used it, but then he straight up forced Grover to bring him hot dog after hot dog. Not to eat, just to count. I had a hard time finding actual footage, but I did recall, and thanks to several people in my Discord server, found that in episode 2863, the Count pulls all the tissues out of Telemonster's box of tissues, 40 in all. When confronted about the mess, the Count simply reverses time in a localized area. With a flip of his wrist, he counts backwards, and all the tissues return to the box in their former place. Somehow, the Count uses counting to reverse time itself. He attributes this trick to his mother, who was apparently, quote, a very neat counter. Lastly, though we never see it on camera, the Count does insist in an interview at San Diego Comic-Con that he can turn into a bat.
Yeah. And if I want to get around, I just change into a bat and flutter over everyone.
Again, much like his lore, it's not much. No bending bars, no stopping oncoming traffic. But hey, he might still prove to be more dangerous than Nandor. Most prominently, the Count does have two large fangs, and that's all he has in there. In fact, he has a special toothbrush just for them. He has purple tinted, skin? Felt? Either way, abnormal skin tones aren't unheard of for vampires, as are the pointed ears. Like many vampires, he has an aversion to garlic.
Garlic? Pass.
And my favorite? He doesn't cast a reflection in mirrors.
You are a terrible mirror. No reflection on you, of course.
On the flip side, he doesn't seem to be bothered by sunlight at all. While he seems to prefer the night, he's been seen relaxing on beaches, counting coconuts. Not to mention, most of his interactions on Sesame Street are during the day. He doesn't seem to need a coffin, which is a hit or miss thing for all the vampires I've been studying in pop culture. And to top it off, he doesn't seem to really have a bloodthirst. Or does he? Ladies and gentlemen and NB friends, I submit to you that the Count does secretly have a bloodlust. You see, while he orders food and even has picnics, he never eats the food. He's far more interested in counting it than devouring it. So then, how does he sustain himself? I considered that he might somehow sustain himself with counting. Perhaps some variant of psychic vampire, you know? But it appears that his family is prone to a rare disease called the counting flu. When afflicted by such a disease, counting at all will cause them to pass out. Such a malady would ensure his bloodline, pun intended, died out quickly if counting was their only source of sustenance. So that only leaves one thing: blood. Yes, I know you're doubtful, so was I. Until I saw this. Yes, my friends, I believe that behind the scenes, when the cameras are off, the Count not only dines on others, supping on the lifeblood of the Sesame denizens, but that he's spread his dark disease. Just look! Big Bird is clearly the Count's thrall, or perhaps his familiar. And with his mastery of mesmerism, it'd be child's play to cause his victims to forget. I'm doing it. I'm straight up saying the thing Peter Griffin suspected.
You're asking if they've ever done a Sesame Street in which the Count kills somebody and then sucks their blood for sustenance?
Yeah.
No, they've never done that.
For those that are new, a paladin threat level is shorthand. When paladins are out in the field and need info on a threat they're chasing, they count on masons like me to give them the info they need in as succinct a manner as possible. So, we rate threats on a scale of 1 to 10, which is heavily weighted toward the bottom. That means something like, brownies infesting your refrigerator and making it dance the mamba across your house. That's a 1. A single paladin could probably fix that in an afternoon. Now, a 10 is more like when a group of archaeologists pull up the unnamed book of Yog-Sothoth, inadvertently calling forth Abholos, spawn of Cthulhu's tears and bile, the devourer in the mist, to begin the 1,000-year undoing, in which every living thing is broken down, peeled apart like threads from a garment, and woven back together as one torturous mass from which the old ones will begin to feed our very cries and suffering, acting as metaphysical garnish to their feast. That's a 10. We're not coming back from that. Now, as we saw a couple episodes ago, Nandor the Relentless managed to be the very first threat level 1 on our show, although technically Dracula should have been. His powers were many, but his ability to use them to any degree of threat was limited. What about the Count? Well, it's no secret that Arithmomania is common among vampires. A classic technique when encountering one is to cast marbles or pennies out, forcing them to stop what they're doing and count them. It works about 20-25% of the time. With the Count, I'm sure it would be an instant game stopper, but I question if it will even come to that. I've already established the Count is clearly holding everyone on Sesame Street hostage, likely without them even realizing it. He's shown that when he's pushed or frustrated, he will attack. I think the very act of investigating him might trigger this. Once he's shown his true colors, that mesmerism will be something to watch out for. On top of that, the ability to summon lightning, thunder, and even rain would be devastating, far more dangerous than what most vampires can manage, especially if he can aim that lightning. But the real issue? The time warping. Imagine this. 5 paladins jump out, guns raised, ordering him to stand down. He counts them. 5 unlucky paladins! Ah! Lightning strikes down. They open fire. Blam, blam, blam. But he counts. 3, 2, 1. The bullets return to their chambers. Depending on how you look at this, he could be a pushover, or he could be a deadly adversary waiting to strike. My eyes tell me threat level 1, but my gut tells me threat level 3. Better to err on the side of caution, lest you end up as one dead paladin. Ah. We have a number of ways to go about this, but I think we're going to need to focus on Spiritualist. That's the anti-specter and anti-demon disciplines, which, if you don't know what those are, there should be a card in the upper corner there that can brief you on the paladin disciplines. Either of those should have the mental fortitude and training to resist his mesmerism, but even if not, they should be more used to it and know how to avoid getting in that situation in the first place. I think if we tail him, keep notes on his whereabouts, we can set up a scenario to keep him busy. Like we saw when his picnic was disassembled by ants, he's so focused on counting that he doesn't care about anything else. I bet if we use something like a roll of pennies or a box of nails, he'll stop to count and give us plenty of time to get into position. Daylight doesn't hurt him, but he is averse to garlic. That's okay for warding him off, but you'd have to be creative to trap him with it. The paladins I know are, well, they like shooting things. He's a proven biter, so maybe a garland of garlic around their necks to keep him at bay. The only thing I'm not sure about countering is that whole time reversal power. I suppose we can try tranquilizers from a distance, but man, he can even summon rain and lightning over the phone. Okay, best thought I have is a counting trap. Just, give him a whole kindergarten playset with everything he could want to count. Then strike from a distance. Single Parish Dispatch. Garlands of garlic to repel physical attack. Utilize Spiritualists to avoid and resist mesmerism. Track target. Distract with a heavy number of countables, such as marbles or buttons. Attack from a distance. Capture or kill as required. Yes, I just spent the last 20 minutes explaining how to capture and possibly kill the Count from Sesame Street. I know, I'm a monster. But you know what? I can live with that. I can live with it if it means the streets, the Sesame Streets, are safe once again. But what do you think? Is the Count really as dangerous as I proposed? Am I just pulling this out of my cloak? Let me know what you think down in the comments section. And while you're there, don't forget to drop your suggestion for our next vampire. Remember, we only have 2 more vampires to go. 2! That's 2 vampires! Sorry, I only had 1 left in me. Anyways, once we get to December, we're stacking them all against one another to see which vampire is the best of the best, and I'm going to need your help to do it. Make sure you check out our Discord server where you can suggest new topics for me to cover, take a look at some chapters of our book, The Paladin, and of course meet with our awesome community of people. I want to take a brief moment to share some amazing fan art that has been coming into the server. And yeah, guys, I just have to say, it really touches me to see you guys like enjoying the content, enjoying the streaming so much that, you know, you want to make this stuff. Keep it coming, and I love you all. We stream on Twitch every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And don't forget to check us out on Twitter as well. Yes, I'm still calling it Twitter. So, which vampire do you think is the best so far? And who are we going to do next? Like, subscribe, and hit that bell to make sure you don't miss out on our next episode of Monster Menagerie. For now, I have to go. Maddie accidentally dropped a pink sock in with all the white garments, and now I have to figure out how to fix this. I'll see you guys next time. And don't forget, keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's hiding out there. As of 2017, the Count claimed his age to be 6,523,728 years old. That means he was born right around the time that humans were branching off from the other apes.